guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. Welcome to the video. Today I am joined by Deadwood Jedi. Deadwood, it has been way too long, my friend. How you doing? Welcome to the channel.
I'm doing great. I agree. It's been too long. I'm looking forward to chatting with you. It's always a pleasure being here, man.
I'm looking forward more than you are, man, because you're going to give me some free Doom Tower coaching. So everybody should go ahead and take a moment to pause the video and subscribe to Deadwood Jedi. The link will be in the pinned comment as well as the description below. And check out his website, the #1 clan boss resource inside the entire world. Deadwood, it's been like a year since we had you on, and I want to kind of pick up where we left off, right? That video blew up, by the way. One of the better videos that I've had on the channel. Like 200,000 views, man. It's insane. People love clan boss, apparently.
I still have people coming by saying, "Hey, I saw you on Ash's channel, and help me out." I'm like, "All right, let's do this." Dude,
I am still pathetically using the same team that you built for me all that time, like a long time ago. There's only one change that I've made. So this is the team that we built, the double man-eater unkillable Batman comp. Is that the what do I call this thing? Is it the Batman double man-eater? What's the name?
This is the Bat Eater, right? So taking the Batman, taking the Man-Eater, mixing it together, we got the Bat Eater composition. And it, by the way, it's still the best, like the best comp there is out there. Maybe not the highest damage level, but just for a day-to-day thing, it's the easiest setup, easiest to run. It is the pinnacle of clan boss teams.
And I love that it works with no adjustments on Ultra Nightmare and Nightmare. You know, like I don't have to change anything. It's like you said, super easy setup. I press like I tap the phone 3 times or whatever, and I'm done for the most part.
Well, now with the team setup, you can actually set it up and it runs on auto. It runs on auto without having to do anything. It's one of the few comps that can do that.
That is true, my friend. Now, has there been any improvements to this? Like, Gentoro is optional, by the way, I should say that. The only 4 like fundamental pieces of this team are these 4. So it's, I mean, having 2 mana eaters is tough, right? But there's other variations that you have on your website. By the way, today we're gonna make the best clan boss team. But on your website, we have like many different variations. Is there a 1 man eater comp that can do kind of a similar thing here, or no?
So this is a unique team, and having a Seeker in there is key because it gets you that 2-1 ratio. What I mean by that is you're doing 2 attacks for every 1 attack the clan boss does. You're basically going twice as fast as him, right? And so having that kind of approach, there's only a few champions that can do that in this game. There's actually only 3 champions that can do that in this game by themselves. You're talking Seeker, you're talking Mashald, and you're talking Deacon Armstrong. And it's because those skills come back on 2-turn cooldowns. And they're all great. And you can make this type of a team using any of them. The speeds just change for the rest of the team, but very, very doable. And yeah, there's no real changes that have been made to this. It's kind of the perfect team out there. The only difference is what kind of damage dealer you want to bring in. Gentoro is a fabulous option. Not only is he super fun to watch, but he does crazy amounts of damage. He's great. But you can use a bunch of different champions if you wanted to. You can bring in Draco, obviously, is one of the best at it. But you can use a Fane and Epic champion and still get to a 1-key level with this team. So there's a lot of flexibility with it. It's one of the reasons why people like it so much because, you love your Gentoro, then yeah, use them. Go ahead. You want to use your Draco? No problem.
Yeah. I wanted to find a way that I can use Gentoro anywhere in the game, and it seemed best suited for Clan Boss because he does bring decreased defense and weaken on a 3-turn cooldown and a lot of damage. Right, and he actually does more damage than Dracomorph did, but again, it's hard to compare because I don't have the exact same gear on these champions. I had them both in Relentless sets though. I'm not sure if you remember that, but that's where we left off with Dracomorph. We had a Relentless set. The only problem is my Relentless gear could be better, and that leaves him with a huge glaring weakness, and it's really, really bad. But I tested it. So I only have 67% crit rate on this dude. That's awful. Awful, awful, awful. The only problem is I tested it without Relentless gear with 100% crit rate, and he still got more with the Relentless on. And it's I don't know. It's not ideal. Let's put it that way. But that's what I have.
Something like Relentless 7 is going to have an outsized impact on a champion like Gentoro. Gentoro has an ability where after like 4 hits with his A3, he will then do a 5-hit with his A3, which can be like over 1 million damage total.
He hits for about 250k each hit. So like, to your point, he's doing over 1 million damage on every single time he does this. Yeah.
So the more hits you can get in, just the better. I can understand why he's unique in that sense, where he's really going to do more damage with Relentless, even without the crit rate.
Yeah, and I get the aura, and I get the aura as well on him, so that's nice to have as well, which I don't have. I have to run no aura on the Dracomorph team. Anyway, so this is where we left off, but I want to build an OP team. I guess my last question about this unkillable, and by the way, guys, again, deadwoodjedi.com, is it just .com? Is it or
just .com? It's nice and simple.
Enough. Nice and easy.
Just Google me. Just Google me, guys.
And I got one question for you. What you doing?
There you go. Google Deadwood Jedi. You guys will see the site, all the speeds, all the team comps, regardless of the champions that you have. I promise, 100%, unless you just started today, there's a comp out there for you that can better optimize, right? So if you don't mind, I'll include the speeds for this team on the screen right now, Deadwood. But all the rest, just go ahead and visit the website. So Painkeeper, my last question on this is Painkeeper. I see some comps very similar to this, but not running Painkeeper. Is she mandatory?
Painkeeper is mandatory for the Bat Eater, right?
Okay.
The thing is, Man-Eater has a 5-turn cooldown on his unkillable skill. And unfortunately, you're going at a 2-1 ratio. You need to happen every other turn, so you really need on a 4-turn cooldown. That's where Painkeeper comes in, reducing the cooldown of skills for all your allies, reduces those Man-Eater skills so they go from 5 turns to 4, and that makes him, by having 2 of them, makes it an unkillable team. Now, there are other builds without using Painkeeper, but the speeds are a lot faster. It is a lot harder. Sometimes you have to bring in other champions. And one of those comps is something we could build for you today, or at least look at for you. And I'll point that out as an option. We might as well get into it. There is a what they call a bat salad eater. Basically, you bring in Mashald instead of Painkeeper. And by doing that, you are able to, and by running your Man-Eaters super fast, I think it's like 287 speed for each of them. But by doing that, what's happening is your Man-Eaters are actually going on I want to say it's a 5-5-4 ratio. Basically, what they're doing is they're alternating taking 3 turns and then taking 2 turns. And they're each alternating with each other. So when one Man-Eater's taking 3 turns, the other one's taking 2. And what that's doing is allowing them to go through their cooldowns fast enough where they're able to keep you unkillable for the full fight. It does take a little bit more getting set up and into it, but it's almost guaranteed 100 million comp, because now you're moving from 2 DPS champions in Seeker and Draco, or whoever, Jintoro for you, into 3, having both Seeker, Mashald, and Draco/Jintoro.
Ooh, I like this.
It's very cool. I don't think you can run it with Relentless, or there might be a variant of it that can run Relentless.
Okay.
That I'm personally not as familiar with. But I think I have it on the website, so I'm sure we can find it if we need to.
Stop it. Get some help.
Okay, well, so that's an option, but I want to go big here, Deadwood. I want to go big, man. And before we do, because it's going to get a little pay-to-winny. It's going to get a little pay-to-winny in a second, guys. But before we do that, I feel like I want to do due diligence here and talk about what do you think is the most effective, I don't want to say free-to-play, but maybe like accessible team out there that doesn't involve dupe Man-Eaters, basically. So, like, what would you say is like a more basic, even if you don't go through every champion, like what kind of strategy should we be using?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, if you're talking like, hey, I just started the game, completely free to play.
Let's say like 2-3 months played or something like that. You know,
right.
Maybe a few epic champions. Yeah.
I understand. I mean, really, that part of the game hasn't changed a ton.
Okay.
What has changed a lot is our understanding of how to make it better, right? We're talking about a traditional clan boss team in that sense, right? Now, if you're fortunate enough to have a Man-Eater as one of those epics you got early on, you can always run the budget unkillable team. It's a 3-in-1 comp. You can use it for Ultra Nightmare, Nightmare, and and Brutal, and you can use it with basically the same speeds for all of them, basically the same champions. It is a little bit challenging, but there are a million resources. I've done, I think, probably 6 or 7 videos on that one comp alone, because it is so popular. And when you can run an unkillable team, what you're doing is you're basically running a cheat code. You know, you've basically hijacked the way Clan Boss is supposed to work and bending it to your will, because you're making it so that your team will survive for 50 turns. So you don't have to worry about having the right defense or having enough defense or having enough HP, other than making the build itself work. And you can just focus everything on damage, everything on poisons, or, the debuffs that you need. And it allows people that are on accounts that wouldn't be able to do Ultra Nightmare to actually go into Ultra Nightmare. And you're basically hitting above your weight. So that's obviously one option there. There are, some builds that use like a Tower and a Skull Crusher, or Warcasters is another champion that can block damage. There are a few unkillable teams out there, and they're all on the website, so you can check those out.
Cool.
And basically, you just want to make sure if you have the champions or not. But there's only like 4 champions that can do unkillable in an AoE kind of fashion and help your team out. Outside of that, you're going to want to do a traditional clan boss team. And what does that mean? And this is actually perfect because this is going to lead us to what is now, I would say, I think this is now the meta of, at least if you're trying to do the highest scores in this game for clan boss. You have to bring all the debuffs and all the buffs, right? So that means you need to bring decreased attack. That's the most important debuff to bring. That will keep your team alive. Don't let the clan boss hit you as hard. Helps a lot. Decreased defense and weaken. Both of those debuffs make all of your hits do more damage. In fact, they make your War Master procs from your Masteries, your Giant Slayer procs from your Masteries, which is a huge part of the damage that we bring. Those do more damage when you have those on. So it is essential. Those are the 3 most important debuffs to have. Then you start talking about, the other debuff that you want to bring, if you can, is poison. And then you also have HP burn as a possibility too. Now, poison's great, especially for early game teams, early game players, because it's going to just do consistent damage. You don't have to build damage on your champions. Don't have to worry about crit rate. Just stay alive as long as possible. Let those poison ticks do the work, and that should hopefully get you to a 2-key nightmare, a 3-key ultra nightmare. Maybe it's just a 4-key, but like it's getting you that progress that you need as an early player.
Absolutely.
And then,
sorry, go ahead. No, keep going, please. This is great.
There goes my heart beating, 'cause you are.
That's as far as like the debuff parts of things. That's where you're going, and that's the importance, right? Decrease attack, decrease defense and weaken, and then the poisons or the HP burn. And then the other half of that is staying alive, right? Because you're not unkillable. So you have to stay alive one way or another. And there's tons of great champions, and there's more of them coming out. And actually, this Fusion champion, I haven't been a huge fan of, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But he's actually going to be really good, especially for early game players. And part of the reason why is he's bringing 2 of the most common and most important buffs you can have on your team. Increased defense and ally protection. Now, increased defense is, I think, essential for clan boss. And the reason why is, you build your champions to 3,000 defense. You put that increased defense buff, all of a sudden it's effectively about 4,200 or higher, right? It's doing a lot of work for you as far as building your champions. And that increased defense is huge. Yeah, we're talking Versulf the Grim right there. He has a AoE increased defense buff with an ally protect for his allies. Now, the other part of that is that ally protection buff. That is the most overpowered protection buff in this game. It's the best damage mitigation you can find for clan boss specifically. I have a video coming out later this week, actually, where I'm going to be going into the details of why that works,
I love that.
how that works. But the idea with ally protection is that it's shared. Basically, if I put ally protection on you, every time you get hit, Ash, I'm going to take. You're only going to take half the damage.
Yeah.
And I'll absorb the other half. Right.
I appreciate that, man. Appreciate that.
I'm here for you. It's teamwork.
That. I needed a bodyguard. This is great. But so if you have that ally protect on, and then you have strengthen on as well, are you soaking up 25% less damage off of all of that 50% damage that you're absorbing from the entire team?
Yes, exactly.
It's huge.
But here's the thing with now here's the interesting thing with clan boss. Clan boss hits you. You notice clan boss hits harder as it goes along, right? This thing called Gathering Fury. Well, the thing is, the ally protection doesn't account for that. So what's going to happen is I'm going to save you 50% of the damage, right? I'm protecting you. Your clan boss hits you. You're only going to take half the damage. Mm-hmm. Now, normally I would take the other half of that damage. But while your damage that you're taking is influenced by that Gathering Fury, it's getting higher and higher every turn. The amount of damage that I'm taking protecting you stays the same. It's based off that
Ooh.
initial hit, the base values.
Okay.
So what that means is in Clan Boss, an ally protector isn't taking that much more damage. It's like a flat number. Like for the stun, it's always like 700 or 800, depending on the HP level of the champion getting stunned. It doesn't change over the time. So ally protection is a huge way to keep your team alive a lot longer. The key is just building your ally protector really, really tanky to absorb that kind of damage.
Okay.
So those are the two biggest buffs you can bring for your team. And those are the things you're looking for a base team, right? Like a basic team. You're looking to bring those debuffs that we were talking about, decrease attack especially, decrease defense and weaken, desirably, and then poisons if at the very end of that. And then you're looking to protect your team. We're talking about increased defense. We're talking ally protection. And there's a ton of champions that can do this really well. If we're just talking epic champions, I mean, there is really nobody better for this than Skull Crusher, because he's also going to bring you counterattack.
Yeah, sure.
Another wonderful champion for this is going to be Martyr. It brings you increased defense and counterattack. But also there's champions like one of my favorite, Vergis. I did a full video on him. I have a build on the website specifically for Vergis because he is so good for this type of build.
So tanky, dude. He's the ultimate tank in a lot of ways, right? Because it's passive.
The ultimate tank. Plus, he makes your lead champion faster with that increased speed buff, which means you can put a champion at a faster speed, a 4-3 ratio type of thing. So your Sepulchre Sentinel or someone else like that, even like a Steel Skull. And what'll end up happening is you don't have to build them as fast. You don't have to put them at 240 speed. You can put them at like 206 speed, and it will work for Ultra Nightmare. It's a wonderful, wonderful champion. Anyway, but there's a bunch of champions that can. I mean, like there's not like millions of them, but there's a lot of champions.
Some options. Yeah.
There's a lot of champions that can do that for you and help you stay alive, and that's really, really important. So that's kind of my recommendation. If you're an early game player, the most important thing, get masteries on all your champions. Once you have masteries on your champions, you should actually be able to compete in Nightmare. Definitely in Brutal, but even Nightmare. Anything under that, all you have to do to get to that level is just put masteries on all your champions. You just need War Master, you need Giant Slayer. That's really all you need. Yeah, you're moving yourself over so you can see that.
Yeah. So this is like a pretty traditional, I guess, clan boss mastery in having that retribution as well, especially on Unkillable.
Yep, exactly. Cool. Now, the only other thing I would recommend trying to do is trying to either cleanse the stun or block the debuffs. But early level, you're just going to struggle with the different affinities of the clan boss. They put different debuffs on you. That's just something you're going to have to deal with. You're going to struggle with the stun. Again, something you're probably just going to have to deal with, and there's going to be some variation in your results. But when we're talking high-end levels, those are things that we want to account for and deal with. So like when we're talking about you with your team, that's the kind of thing we're going to want to try and keep in mind as well. So we're gonna
for my team. Let's go make the best team ever. My final question though is, what about Bulwark? Would this be a little bit too much damage for that big damage soaker ally protect champion to add that as a tier 6, or would you just be better off going War Master or Giant Slayer on them?
You can put that on. I don't generally recommend it. It's just going to be a little bit more than I think you need. There's certainly an argument to be said for that. One of the new gear sets that Guardian said.
Yeah.
It's basically like ally protection, but on your gear. It's a really powerful skill.
I have my Ursaga in that, and it's not the best artifacts, but it's still like incredible. She's like such a tank with ally protect and this strengthen and etc.
Yes, exactly. So like that kind of a gear set can actually play really well in Clan Boss because it acts like ally protection. Same kind of thing. You're taking the base amount of damage, not the Gathering Fury amount. You're helping to make sure your other champions are alive. It can really help a lot with things like the stun and it can actually help protect your ally protector as well, because you're giving them a little bit of ally protection too. So there's definitely a lot of positivity associated with that. And that's definitely a possibility of things you can do to help mitigate that damage for your allies. Bulwark is solid. It's not something I generally recommend. It's not something that's generally used, but the Masteries can have a big effect on the sustain of your team, the damage of your team. If you can go the defensive tree, always go the defensive tree. Really stay in the support tree more for specific healers, specific champions like that, or if you don't have the accuracy and you need to make that number up. But yeah, I generally prefer the defense tree because it will help you last a lot longer. And there's a lot of damage mitigation there.
And remind us, what is the key accuracy numbers for Nightmare and Ultra Nightmare that you're aiming for?
Sure. Actually, I have some of this on my website.
See? Everything's okay.
Just
Perfect.
for people looking, if you're looking for this, you want to look it up. I have a bunch
good to
of
bookmark and have like handy, because if you want to make any adjustments, you're gonna forget the speeds you used or the accuracy or whatever, So yeah.
Believe me, I do this myself all the time. But basically, I have guides and resources linked, and there's a lot of other websites there, a lot of other tools that are available in this game. So if you're looking for an auto clicker, you're looking for different calculators for offers that like Chosen has, you can find it there. But I also have infographics, and that lists a bunch of those things that you need, including the statistics. So if you want accuracy for Nightmare, you're looking at having at least 150. That's the resistance level of the clan boss there. And I generally recommend going about 15 to 20 points higher than that, just to be safe and up the chance that you're going to land it. And Ultra Nightmare, the resistance is 225, so you're looking at trying to get around I generally recommend about between 230 and 250 is pretty good. Anything above that is unnecessary, but so for Nightmare, 150, 165, 170, 175, something like that will do just fine.
Perfect. Sounds good. So let's get into the pay to win here. And
oh god.
So I want to make the best team ever, best team I possibly can, at least. So my goal, you put it like I don't want to set the world record for the best run, because I don't have like 18 Krisks. I kid, but I saw that it's probably not even the world record anymore. But I saw that a while ago. So what I want to aim for 100 million every single Ultra Nightmare. Do you think I can do that, or is that a challenge? You think?
I definitely think you can do that.
Okay.
So 100%. I'll put it this way: my team's 100 million team currently.
Okay.
Depending on affinity, I struggle against blue where I do maybe like 75 or so, and then but against every other affinity, I'm well over 100 million, 130 against green. Like it's got that kind of capabilities, and it's a traditional clan boss team.
Okay. So yeah, you're seeing my clan here. You can see my clan's teams. Like I'm not sure if you saw it earlier when I scrolled through. But a lot of these, and it's hard to read into these two keys because we just stop oftentimes, when we hit those thresholds. But everybody's running the Bat Eater, it seems like, for the most part. And you see different combinations of champions with them. But there's only a few teams that run, non-Bat Eater here, some Ally Protect, some stuff like that. So just to show, what my clan mates are using. Shout out to my clan mates, they're awesome.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, no, it's great. But that's one of the things. Everybody runs the same thing. Sometimes we want to be a little bit different. Want to push it. It gets a little stale. So
I want to support this. I want to
100%.
impress my clan mates here, man. So, who should I be thinking about here? What are you thinking? What are you thinking in terms of the team selection here? Like, who's who's a lock on the team?
Okay, the definite lock on your team is going to be Krisk. Now we're talking. Let me speak out here real quick.
Sure.
We're talking about we're trying to push the damage and the limits of Clan Boss here. So we're trying to make it as big as possible. To do that, if you're trying to get over that 100 million mark, you really need to move away from unkillables, go back to traditional teams, and we're going to try and be as tanky as possible, but also as fast as possible. So we're going to be working at 2-1 ratio speeds. We're going to be taking 2 attacks for every one the Clan Boss did. Now, the team I'm going to recommend you build is a variation off of a couple world record breaking teams. There's a team created by one of my moderators now in my Discord, Pavo, where he basically used Krisk and Lydia and used those two with their speed buffs and the buff extension from Krisk to get everybody to a 2-1 ratio team. And that's what we're going to focus on here today, I think. Obviously, the world record is actually held by Victor TS, and it's over. Go ahead,
Go ahead, you tell me.
It's over 300 million now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it 300 million?
It's like 302 million or something preposterous like that.
Why does he have that record, and why has it not been beaten yet? I guess.
Well, it's tough. He's got incredible gear. 2, he's incredibly smart. So, he's speed tuned and he's like defense tuned his team basically so that they have just as much defense and HP as they need to survive as long as they can. He's got Guardian sets on like 2 of the champions, I think. I believe he's using 2 Krisks as well.
Wow.
If we want to talk pay to win, he's definitely
but still there's
there.
that level of like thought and strategy there. Like even to that point, the fact that he optimizes every 1 HP in defense that he needs and then prioritizes damage after that, like that's a level of dedication, sir, that I'm not sure
100%.
All right.
No,
So
100%.
Krisk.
Yeah. One of the things that makes this kind of composition work is that ally protection I was talking about earlier.
Yes.
And recognizing how to maximize those stats. So things like getting that defense up as high as possible without actually having to put it up as high as possible, utilizing that increased defense buff is massive, right? So we're going to bring in Iron Braggo because he has a 3-turn duration on his increased defense buff. That means it's going to be up the entire fight for us, pretty much. That's huge for us, right? That's going to be absolutely massive. Making sure that stays on everybody for the entire fight. That's going to be really big. And so that way we don't actually have to have everybody at that massive defensive level. Typically you used to build everybody to 4,000 defense. Well, now we can build everybody to like 3,000 defense and let that increased defense buff do the rest of the work.
Okay.
Now, for a champion like Krisk, who's going to be doing the ally protecting, we're going to have to build him a little bit tankier, right? For a Braggo, who's, going to be, probably taking our stun anyway and is a defensive champion. Plus, he has a great passive where he shares his defense with everybody. We're going to be building him tanky. So that's going to be big. But we know now, after about 3,000 defense, everything else we can really push into HP. That's really the focus after that point.
Okay. Good to know. So on Iron Braggo, is this going to be my main decrease attack? If so, do I have to build him with accuracy, or am I building him without accuracy?
Yes, you're going to want to build him with accuracy.
Okay.
Krisk brings a decreased attack when he gets hit, but getting the consistency of letting the stun land on Krisk is a little bit hard to predict. So definitely the better way to go is to put that on, have Braggo do it, give him some accuracy, get his defense up to as close to 5k as you can, even higher if you can. And with enough HP to survive. We're going to be building up Krisk basically with as much HP and defense as we can muster on him for those ally protections. And then the other part's a little bit trickier, right? Because usually I would say, I guess the next champion I should mention is going to be Valkyrie. Because Valkyrie is, you have arguably the two best clan boss champions in this game. You have Valkyrie and you have Krisk. Okay. And they're both wonderful because they do unique things. Nobody does all the skills that they do. Valkyrie specifically, nobody does what she does, right? She not only brings this counterattack, which only 3 champions in the game have, her being one, but she also brings in a massive shield, the biggest shield in the game. It's based off of her defense. It's basically 4 times her defense is how much HP you're getting off of that shield. So you stack that defense on her, get her up to like 7,000 defense, 8,000 defense, and all of a sudden that's going to be a massive, massive shield. And Braggo's passive is even making it bigger. But you use that, you use Krisk ally protection, and you are going to basically never die. That's the goal anyway.
I like it.
So we'll see how that works.
So how many rounds would I be lasting here roughly?
If everything goes right, if you get it all built nice and tanky, we're talking, I can tell you Pavo's team, I think, lasted...
Well, I'm no Pavo. Easy, Deadwood. I'm no
over
Pavo.
100 rounds?
Don't compare me to that guy, man. Set lower expectations.
Fair enough.
Right.
I would say you should be lasting upwards of 60, 70, 80 rounds.
Okay, wow. Okay.
My current team without ally protection and just Valkyrie lasts 60 rounds.
Okay.
So I feel like that's a pretty reasonable...
But I have a big problem though. I have a big problem, and that is our last champion. Because I'm lazy and I didn't do the best fusion of all time, arguably. So I don't have our last. I don't have Bragni, and that was the last champion. So we're gonna have to make a substitution, right?
100%. So Bragni is the one champion that's really made a lot of these compositions possible. I mean, obviously, you need all these champions. Remember, a clan boss team is a culmination of 5. It's not just one. Yeah. It's really all 5 have to work in sync together. And Bragni's wonderful for that because he not only brings decreased, blocks debuffs, but he does damage and he increases the shield size.
Value.
But I think with Krisk, we can still make a pretty solid team here.
Okay.
I'm not too concerned about it. The thing is, so what I want to do is I want to make sure we have somebody that can block the debuffs for you. This is going to ensure that you survive. Block the debuffs, hopefully bring in a little bit of healing as well, and you do have one of these champions in Riho Spear. She's pretty fantastic, actually. I got her. I love her. I haven't figured out how best to use her yet, but she has, continuous heals on her A1. Her A2 is placing every debuff you could hopefully want to put on somebody. Yeah. Exactly.
So I'll have her and Braggo for my decreased attack, and then I'll have
That's actually a good point because she basically places those. You might be able to get away without having accuracy on your Braggo. So that is something that we would want to look at and see and make sure the consistency of that. I've played with Riho without a lot of accuracy, and she seems to place those. I haven't tested her extensively, so I don't know 100%. But if you can do that, if they place automatically without accuracy, then you won't need Braggo. You won't have the chance for resist. That would be an excellent choice for that, and it will allow you to build Braggo a lot tankier. And yes, she has this block debuffs on her A3 that also does a massive heal. It's not as big because we're not removing that many debuffs, but because of Valkyrie's shield, because of the ally protection from Chris, we're actually not going to be losing that much health for the majority of the fight. We don't need, full healing the whole time, so she should do the job really well. And she does have good multipliers, so if we build her attack up, she should do some decent damage for us as well, which I think we should be able to do. So
all right,
that would be the team I would put together personally.
We have our pay to win team selected. Now we just need to talk, I guess, like gear sets and numbers, I guess, right? We talked a little bit about that, but yeah.
So
I think I'm about to re-gear all these champions, right? Pretty much.
Well, yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
It depends. I'm not sure exactly where you're at speeds on all of them, but
not
general,
fast enough, my friend. Not fast enough.
Not fast enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. So what I will do is, I guess we're not going to keep you here for an hour while I go through all my gear and do that. No, we're not going to make you do that like last time. Last time it took us like 3.5 hours to record that video. But today, what we'll do is I have to pick up my son anyway, so maybe we'll talk more about like the gear, the sets and stuff, the masteries I need, just kind of go over that, just one champion at a time here, and then I'll build this and I'll show it to my subscribers, and I'll make sure I share the link with you and show you the final result, and you can give me your critique. So
I love it.
So let's talk about the numbers. And again, all this stuff, again, guys, you should everybody listening to my voice right now should go to the website and you'll have access to all of this information. With that said, because I'm recording and I don't want to pull up the website, if you have it in front of you, what should I be aiming for in terms of defense and speed on these champions?
Okay, well, those are two very different numbers. So let's talk first about the speeds.
Sure.
The team I'm looking at as like a baseline for this, I have two kind of builds on the website that you can use to kind of create this team. One of them is a tune called a turtle and a girl and her turtle, and that's basically
I love
based
your
off
names, man.
Hey, look, man, if you're not gonna be creative with it, there's no
point.
A
boy and his blob. Right? You remember that game? Probably nobody in the world does, but it's okay. Man, a girl and her turtle.
A girl and her turtle, right? So you're talking about Krisk and Lydia together. And that'll give you the speeds to run a 2-1 ratio team involving Krisk and Lydia. And then all you have to do is, figure out who the other 3 champions are, when they're using their skills to maximize them to the best of your ability and whatnot. And then the other one I'm looking at, and I think this is the one I'm going to kind of recommend with you because we know it works with Pavo, is the 2-1 ratio. It's Pavo's Krisk and Lydia team. It's basically very similar speeds, just slight differences and changes. I think both of them can work for you. It just depends when you want the skills to happen, when you want different champions to go. The Pavo one is good for having that block debuff champion go last, or close to last anyway. So it's going to be good with Riho here. Krisk with accuracy is very good because every time he gets hit, he'll place decreased attack and decreased defense, part of his passive ability.
Okay.
That's a really strong ability. However, with this team, because we have Riho and Braggo, I don't think we need it. Now, if it was just Braggo, be a different story, but because of Riho, because she's duplicating the debuff not only from Braggo but from Lydia as well,
yes,
I don't think we need that as well from Krisk, and that's actually going to be really nice because that means we can build them even tankier than we would otherwise.
Absolutely. So I don't need that accuracy banner. Great. Yeah.
So the speeds we have here, just give you a kind of an overview. 269 for Riho. If you have Brogni, that's the Underpriest Brogni, that's the champion I'd use instead. 268 for Lydia. We've got 238 for Krisk, 200 for Valkyrie, and 199 for Iron Braggo. Now, obviously, with all these speeds, because we have the calculator, you can always play around a little bit and try to find different ranges.
I was gonna say, do I have any wiggle room here? I liked it better on the unkillable, where I had like a 20 speed window. Man, God.
There's definitely some wiggle room, but not a ton. With these traditional teams trying to go to 2-1 ratio, it does get a little tight, especially because turn order matters, right? You want to make sure that buff extension from Chris happens at a very specific time, and that it's extending the buffs that you need extended, right? That way you can make sure you have counterattack up the full fight, you have shields up the full fight, you have that increased defense up the full fight. That kind of stuff is going to make a big difference. So these are what I would shoot for. And then when you get close, you can kind of see, well, if I up it at 1 or if I lower at 1, is that going to have an issue? And hopefully you can make those speeds without too much of an issue. But those are the speeds you're going to need for these champions. Now, the second question you asked, what kind of defense do we need? Well, let's remember everybody's going to have that increased defense buff. Increased defense, like I said, it basically has diminishing returns over time. So it's sloped like kind of like a curve, right? Like a bell curve type of thing.
Yep.
Where the higher the defense level, once you get above 4,200 defense, the amount of damage mitigation you get is not worth improving it any further, right? So like it's basically at that point you want to build your defense up to that point, and then past that point you want to build your HP instead. That's going to help you survive longer. Now we have that increased defense buff, so that means that to get to 4,200, because we get a 30% boost off the increased defense buff, really getting to about 3,000 defense is a pretty good spot to be at. I think that does a little bit more than 4,200, but that's better than not. And 3,000 is a pretty reasonable number to get to for most of our champions.
Except for Chris, though, right? Because he's eating the ally protect.
Okay, so here's the exceptions, right?
Okay.
Defense-based champions do damage based off of defense. So Chris is a defense-based champion. There's no limit to how much we can put on him, because the more we put on him, the more damage he does.
More the better. Got it.
Iron Braggo, another defense-based champion, right? Valkyrie's interesting. She's actually attack-based with her A1 skill, but her A2 skill is based off defense and attack. But more importantly, her shield is based off of the defense. So the more defense we give her, the bigger her shield's going to be, the longer we'll survive, the more damage we do. There is literally no limit on her. So the way I would build this, just to give you kind of raw numbers here. For Iron Braggo, we want to be aiming for 5,000 defense. If we can do more, great. But I think 5,000 defense is kind of like really what we want to try and get to. We definitely want over 4,000. But 5,000 is kind of the end game, whale goal here. With Valkyrie, we're going to be, and this is going to be a crazy number, we're actually going to be aiming for about 8,000 defense. So I'll put it this way. You don't need 8,000 defense on her, right? You really would like to get, I think for most teams, most people out there, you're like, for those of you that, have a Valkyrie but aren't at this level, aim for 6,000. Aim for as much as you can, but 6,000 is a good number for most clan boss type stuff. For you, Ash, I would say aim for 7,500. And if you can go higher, if you can get to 8,000, get to 8,000. But I think 7,500 is a pretty good number. But part of the reason is Iron Braggo is going to give 10% of his defense to your ally. So if you can get Iron Braggo to 5,000, you take that 5,000, that's going to be an extra 500 defense for all your champions.
Okay. Good point.
It's huge.
And
so you can add that, and then Valkyrie 7,500 then becomes about 8,000, and you will have a massive shield. It's really fun to watch.
Okay, so Valk, I got 75 to 8K or more. We have 5K ideally for Braggo, 4K minimum. Chris, the more the better. Just overload him.
The more the better.
defense.
I would actually kind of keep him in a similar vein to Iron Braggo. You definitely want over 4,000.
Okay.
But I think 5,000 I think 5,000 is about your cap, right? That's kind of the pushing the limits as far as like the damage benefits you're getting out of it anyway. You're getting an extra 500 from Braggo also. But really you're going to want to really stack his HP. So you don't want to focus so much to the defense that you take away from his survivability, which is very HP based. So that's
HP. Okay.
Yep. And then because of that, because you got the Braggo passive, because you have the ally protection, because you got the increased defense going on with both Riho and Lydia that are attack-based champions, you can probably aim for closer to 2,500 defense because of those other bonuses that you're getting. Now, obviously, the more defense you put on anybody, the more damage mitigation you're getting. But we're trying to optimize it, right? We're trying to maximize the possibilities here.
So should I go?
Help.
If I get 30, if I get 20, because 2,500 is pretty low. That's pretty that's a number I can deal with, right? So if I go 2,500, am I better off putting the excess into HP or attack for more damage?
Well, that's the question, right? And you're gonna have to kind of balance that out. And that I don't have the answer for that one specifically.
We'll play around with it. Yeah.
But that's the part you're gonna play around with. Now, here's what I would do, because you're trying to get the 100 million damage, right? So I would put it in attack, but I would maintain a minimum of say 35,000 HP, and that's probably too low. We should probably be aiming to have at least 40,000 HP on all of our champions. Okay. That should be what we're aiming for.
Okay.
As like a minimum. That means that same for Iron Braggo, same for Valkyrie, same with Riho and Lydia. We would like to have, I think, at least 40,000. If you can get it up to 50,000, you're going to survive even longer. But I'd say at least 40,000, and everything else goes into attack. Now, if you're like, okay, do I put an extra 1,000 attack on, or an extra, 5,000 HP? That's where I might go, well, that's a lot of attack. Maybe we go that route and see how it goes, right? Okay. But like for me, what I would be doing is I'd be trying my best to have attack percentage chest piece, right? Obviously, they're going to need speed boosts considering the speeds that they need to get to. Yeah. Right? And then you're talking crit rate, crit damage gloves. That would be the foundation I would build upon. And then you can try to supplement the HP through the jewelry as much as possible. Whether that means HP based jewelry with attack percentage substats, or if that means attack, jewelry with HP percentage substats, like however you got to make that work. But that's really where I would try to mitigate that balance. Also with, your top 3 artifact pieces that can help too.
Okay, man, I'm taking copious notes over here, man. Do I last final questions, any specific artifacts? Should I try for a guardian on any of these champions, or just go with whatever I need to get those numbers?
I got you.
All right.
I will stand by you forever.
So here's the thing, because we have so much protection going on, normally with a team like this, if you want to build it as tanky as possible, I say go stalwart gear, right? Stalwart gear is like the best clan boss set. You're mitigating 30% of the damage. It's a huge number. But because we are doing so much mitigation, we're taking half damage from the ally protection. We already have the defense levels really high. We've got the massive shield from Valkyrie. I don't know that we actually need stalwart gear on all of our champions. There is one champion that I would highly recommend doing this for, and that's Chris. Because he's the only champion that won't have ally protection on it. That becomes really big as far as, mitigating the damage that he takes. Now, the other thing, we were talking HP goals with Chris, we're going to be aiming for 60, 70, 80,000 HP, as much as we can put on him. Really is going to be a big factor. Normally, for all of you out there, I recommend kind of keeping your HP and defense levels pretty balanced. So for every 100 defense, you want 1,000 HP kind of thing. So if you have a 3,000 defense champ, you're looking for at least 30,000 HP. But in this case, at least up until the defense level starts to taper off. But I think in this case, because he is taking that little bit of extra damage, because he doesn't have the ally protection on himself, you really want to put as much HP into him as possible, because he's definitely going to be over the advised defense cap. So that'll just be helpful. But stalwart for Krisk, huge. I think that's really big. He also gives himself some healing, so you don't have to worry about that. Now, you mentioned Guardian set. If you have it, I would highly recommend putting it on Iron Braggo and Valkyrie. They have the highest defense.
Okay, I'm gonna farm some more. I'm not gonna have enough, I don't think, out the gate. But yes, okay, go on.
And that's the thing. It's not something I would say I would expect this to be on people. But if you have it, I would put your first set on Braggo and your second set on Valkyrie. And the reason why, the stats are gonna matter more than that. But those bits of Guardian sets help a lot. One, help on the stun, because you're helping to mitigate some of that stun damage. And two, it will help Chris stay alive a little bit longer, because he won't be taking the full force of those hits the full fight. So that's definitely something I would recommend if you have it, to build with it. But the stats are going to be more important than that gear. We want to do as much damage as possible. So that would be my, my recommended would just stick with the stats. As far as the rest of the champions go, you know, I've always said, especially with the traditional team, this is more for your audience rather than you. If you're going to, you know, your squishier champions, if you have healing in your comp and you can put them in stalwart gear, it helps your squishy champions act like they're not as squishy, which is great. So I definitely recommend it for like Riho and Lydia. But it's also not necessary, I don't think, because we have so much protection, so much mitigation. It might be overkill. Now, if you notice that they die 20 turns before everybody else, then
it's a problem.
Then we go, okay,
yeah.
We need to adjust something. We need
Let's
more
fix
HP.
that.
We need a different gear set. We need more defense on them. We need to do something to make it a little bit better. But as long as everybody's kind of dying in, the same couple turns,
yeah,
I think that, that's going to tell you when you're at the right spot there.
I think that in terms of one question on masteries and then one question on setup, and then I gotta get my son. So gotcha. Masteries, should I stick with the healing savior, the healing tree on Riho, or should I just go defense?
As far as masteries go, that's a good question. I always recommend going down the defensive tree. You get a lot of damage mitigation out of that.
Okay.
And especially with Valkyrie's shield, you're not going to need a ton of healing.
Okay.
You're not going to crack that shield for probably 50 turns because you're getting a fresh shield. Like you get 2 fresh shields per cycle, right?
Yeah.
Because of that 2-1 ratio. So each AOE should have a fresh shield. You're really just going to need to heal up for the stun, at least for the majority of the fight. And Chris heals himself. He's the other person that might be taking damage early. So I would probably go the defensive tree. But again, it's the same type of thing. If you stay with what you have just to test it and you find out, hey, Riho's dying a little early, then you go, okay, well, let's try the defensive tree out and we'll go down that road. But yeah, that's generally how I recommend. There's 2 masteries in the defense, actually 3 masteries when you're having Valkyrie, right? So there's 1 blast proof, which is just it gives you 5% less damage from AoE hits. That's really, really good. And then the other one is going to be as rejuvenation, where you get more healing, and your shields that you get are bigger. So that's going to really help when you have Valkyrie on your team, because that means the shields she gives you are even larger shields. And that's just a massive thing. And then the last one is that delay death, and you can basically reduce 6% of the damage just off the top. So you're losing 5% from blast proof, you're losing 6% from delayed death, and then your shields are getting bigger from the rejuvenation. Those are pretty big as far as trying to stay alive and keeping your team up. So if you can do that, that's the way I would recommend. And I would recommend that 100% for everybody. The only exception I would say would be Riho. So that's the other option you have. I know a lot of people take Valkyrie down the support tree as well to give her bigger shields. I still recommend going down the defensive tree. I think it's just better all the way around.
Okay, perfect, man. So I guess final question before we let you go is setup. What is the setup for this team? Or is there a setup?
There is a setup.
Okay.
It's on the website.
I'll go ahead and refer viewers to the website on the setups. Yeah.
Here's the notes I will give. When it comes to any of these setups, the big tricky one is always Green Affinity Clan Boss, because Green Affinity Clan Boss puts a slow debuff on you, and you have to be able to adjust for that. So when you have a team like this where you're blocking debuffs, the trick is obviously making sure that you get those block debuffs up at the right time, and that they stay on all your champions for that slow debuff. That's really the biggest trick. With Krisk, he extends buffs, which is really helpful. That means that with a champion on a 3-turn cooldown like Riho, we can put block debuff up on her first attack before the second AoE, and even going through a second round of attacks with her and everybody else, that should still stay up because Krisk is going to extend the length of that buff. That also means she will come back around 3 attacks later to go right before the stun happens and place block debuffs again, allowing your entire team to go through the stun without having to worry about someone actually getting thrown off and getting stunned, and just taking the hit from the damage. So this team works really well. It really is a short setup though.
Okay.
Like maybe the first like 1 or 2 delays in there of skills, and then you can pretty much click auto, and it should work really fine on all affinities. So it's a pretty easy setup.
I like that, man. I like easy.
Super tanky.
All right. well, hey, man, it's been an absolute pleasure again having you on. You can watch the video to find out how this team does. You guys don't have to wait too long, probably about 30 seconds, and I'll be with you showing this team off. But in real real time, it might be about a 24-hour difference. Deadwood Jedi, thank you so much for coming on, man. Always, like, selfishly such a huge pleasure, but also my viewers, definitely a viewer favorite to have here on the channel. We got to do it more often, man. So thank you so much.
I agree. No, my pleasure. I always love coming on here, and I've always enjoyed your content. So it's great to actually just sit down and talk with you. So I definitely appreciate it.
Man. Likewise. So thank you so much, guys. Every single bit of information, including all Deadwood's personal information, his Twitter, well, not all his personal, that kind of sounded weird, including his home address will be for you guys, cell phone, anything you in the show notes below, guys. Check out his website, bookmark the website, bookmark his YouTube channel while you're at it. Deadwood, thanks so much. And the rest of you, I'll see you in 1 minute. All right, guys. So 24 hours for me, about 2 seconds for you. And we are back. It took me about 2 hours last night to re-gear my champions here. I'll show you really quickly that what I was able to do. You guys already know because I was able to do it. But, you know, on Riho Bone Spear, we have 2,500, the bare minimum of defense with 1 to spare, 50k HP, enough crit rate, crit damage, and 269 on the accuracy. We have Lydia was the only champion I kind of cheated on. I kept her in shield gear only because I use her as my debuffer on my seer teams. For all the Doom Tower waves, I use her every day for that. I really wanted to keep her in that shield set, otherwise I won't have enough buffs on that team. So I was able to do that. Obviously, shield not helping me out at all in Clan Boss, not ideal, but, you know, able to get more versatility out of this champion. I didn't want to totally re-gear her. So I was still able to get the speed to 268 and enough accuracy to land her debuffs and enough HP as well. So those were challenging to get their speeds up that high. I had to really disassemble my old unkillable team and take a lot of artifacts off of other champions as well. Krisk was a little challenging because we were able to get him in stalwart gear, right? 30% less damage from AoE attacks. And it doesn't sound like much comparatively, but 239 speed in stalwart gear was difficult. I had to sacrifice on crit rate. So he's the only champion, I believe, who doesn't have 100% or close to crit rate on this team. He has enough accuracy, he has enough defense, and enough HP to stay alive, though, with that ally protect that he's bringing to the table. And then my 2 Spirit Affinity champions, we have Iron Braggo. I was able to get him to 5,400 on defense, 199 exactly on the nose on speed, 96 with 241 with crit rate or crit damage, excuse me, gauntlets on him. So expecting a lot of damage. The most of my damage will be coming from Iron Braggo on this team, and even with 260 or 169 accuracy, he's still landing, as long as it's not a magic affinity matchup, a lot of these decreased attacks on his A3, just in case we need it there, because Rio also has that on her A2. And then last but not least, it's Valkyrie. Valkyrie has 7240 defense, 200 speed, 100% crit rate, and 113 crit damage. And that's really it, guys. So let's go ahead and take this team into battle and see how we do here. So, Clan Boss, Ultra Nightmare. So here's the team, guys. I'm not going to make you sit here for, you know, a half an hour. Unfortunately, I have no aura to use on this team. I have no aura to use. So that kind of sucks. But, you know, it is what it is, right? So that's the team. Let's go ahead and jump in here. And we'll set it up. And then we will, you know, we'll watch it for a second. I don't want this to be too anticlimactic that you don't see anything at the end of the, you know, hours of talking. Start with this. We go into the A3 here. Gonna jump into the A1. Gonna go with the shield on Valkyrie. And then we're gonna go with the A3 here on, it was resisted there, noteworthy, the decreased attack. Or maybe it wasn't, I don't know. No, that was from Krisk, my bad. All right, so that's the first turn. Going in the second turn, now we can go with the cleanse. Block debuffs. Go with A2 there on Lydia. Gonna go with the extend the buffs, and then we can put it on auto. So this is the team, man. Look at all these buffs that I have on this team. It's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible, right? I mean, it's a pretty strong team. I'm really, really thankful. And again, big shout, now that he's not on the channel, I can give a big genuine shout out to Deadwood Jedi, man. He's a really cool dude, really like nice guy, obviously. And just the amount of work that he puts into all these builds and his website and his YouTube channel, you guys should really check it out. Give him some love, because these videos take a long time, and it's really testament to my guest for making himself available like that. So just wanted to give a huge shout out to Deadwood. Just what a cool guy. So guys, Again, it's kind of boring to watch, but you can see, you know, every champion, I should have shown Masteries, but every champion on the team has retribution. You know, even though they do have Valkyrie counterattack, they do have, all will have War Master as well to help with the damage, which is going to make up a huge, you know, obviously a huge chunk of the damage that we have overall, especially when you add up all 5 champions. So guys, let's go ahead and see how this team does. I'll come back at you in, I don't know, 40 minutes or so. Be right back. All right, guys, boom! Iron Braggo with 32 million damage. Wow, boy, was he the damage leader. 85.91 mil overall, and that was not against a strong affinity matchup. Force affinity would be the strong one here, considering, again, Iron Braggo and Valkyrie are our Spirit affinity champions. So, huge shout out to Deadwood, man. 85.91 is a personal best for me. I can't wait to clear 100. I think I can do it pretty easily just by improving Chris' crit rate and his damage, and also obviously the proper affinity matchup depending on the clan boss. So when I go to Force Affinity, I will update you guys on how I do. Hopefully you enjoyed this really long marathon video, guys. Thank you for watching all the way until the end. Big shout out to GFUEL, where you can get 30% off for only one more day here when you use my code ASH here on the channel. Thank you so much. Again, a big shout out to Deadwood Jedi. Check out all his channel information and stuff below in the description. Thank you, and as always, take care, guys.